Hello and welcome to the Prep Data Collection tutorial on Fidelity Monitoring Reporting. This brief instructional video is designed to provide you with some useful tips to efficiently and accurately collect and report data about the instruction of prep curricula known as Curriculum Instruction Fidelity Monitoring Reporting. Georgia Prep's evaluation utilizes a fidelity monitoring process that is comprised of three components. First, paper fidelity monitoring forms. Second, the online fidelity monitoring reporting system powered by SurveyMonkey.com. And third, online reporting contractor views, also powered by SurveyMonkey.com. Fidelity monitoring data collection and reporting begins when prep curriculum instructors or facilitators complete the paper fidelity monitoring form. These forms are to be compiled monthly and entered into the online fidelity monitoring system. This is how the data collection by each contractor is shared with the state and its evaluation contractor for analysis. Lastly, the online contractor report views allow for contractors to see the data submitted for all curriculum instruction across its sites that are on file with the state. Since this process begins with the completion of the paper FMFs, we are going to begin there. At the end of this video, I will briefly discuss how to transfer data from the paper form to the online reporting system. While use of the paper FMFs may seem straightforward, we'd like to share some best practices that may help to make data collection more efficient. First, the easiest way to collect this data is for the facilitator to fill out the monthly reporting form on paper immediately after each session. This way, the facilitator can accurately recall and record specific details for that specific session. In addition, maintain a copy of all complete paper fidelity monitoring forms in a secure location or as a password-protected electronic file on your records. This way, if you have difficulty retrieving information that you report in the online system, you have a backup copy of your data on hand. This means either a hard copy or an electronic copy of all completed fidelity monitoring forms should be kept on site. Keep in mind that you can save hard copies of your completed FMFs or electronic versions. While both are sufficient, if you use electronic copies, you may be able to save time when transferring information from the paper forms into the online fidelity monitoring reporting system, because you can copy and paste your answers instead of having to retype them. This is a copy of the new paper FMF booklet, which contains a customized FMF for each module or lesson for each of the approved Georgia Prep curricula. Contractors should provide each facilitator and instructor with a copy of the booklet so that they can easily access the paper FMFs as needed to document information about prep modules and lessons that they instruct. Be aware that there have been a number of content and formatting changes to the paper FMFs. However, the majority of the information to be documented on the forms is the same as in previous years. Next, let's take a look at the new paper version of the FMFs. Also, the table of contents may highlight that the new booklet containing all of the Georgia Prep FMFs is a bit longer. However, that is because we have added additional pages that are both site and curriculum specific. Once you pull out and use the pages that pertain to your site and the curricula for your site uses, the number of relevant pages to be completed is significantly fewer. To use the FMF booklet, look for the name of your contractor in the table of contents, which should be listed under Section 1. When you see your contractor's name, circle the name of your contractor and go to the page noted. For the purposes of this video, we will use Beacon of Hope as an example. On the page that lists the sites under your contractor, mark the site where the instruction has taken place. For the purpose of this video, we will use RLC Cycle 1 as an example, and we'll mark it as the site associated with this set of FMFs. However, if your site name was not listed, you would mark that the name of your site is not listed, and then write the name of the site into the open text box. After you have selected the name of your site, you will record the dates that the program cycle began and will end. This should be consistent with the information on file with the state in your most current approved site implementation plan. For this example, I'm going to say that the program cycle began on June 4th, 2015, and that it is supposed to end on August 17th, 2015. Next, instructional details are recorded for the modules and lessons instructed. As previously mentioned, the instructors or facilitators that work at the RLC site will only need to complete FMFs for the curricula used at their site, and each site is required to complete instruction of one sex ed curricula and relationship smarts. Next, you want to indicate the curricula instructed at the site. You may refer back to the table of contents to find the page where all of the curricula are listed, as well as the location of the specific sets of FMFs instructed. At a minimum, each site should have a set of forms completed for one sex education curricula and relationship smart class. For the purposes of this video, I will use making a difference as an example. After completing sections 1, contractor and site information, and 2, curricula details, the instructor who teaches the modules and lessons for each curricula will complete the associated FMFs as instruction is completed using the forms located in section 3. Still using making a difference as our example, I will demonstrate how to record instructional details for the Module 1. To do so, first go to Module List for the curricula and mark the module number you are recording. We recommend that contractors use this checklist to track the modules for which FMF should be completed. The list will also indicate the page where the associated form is located. Once on the FMF for the module or lesson, you are going to record the details of the instruction. The same information will be completed across modules and lessons for all prep curricula. The first thing I need to do is to indicate whether or not the session being documented was a makeup session. For this question, you would only indicate yes that a makeup session is being recorded if the session was previously instructed in entirety for the same program cycle. For our purposes, I will mark that I am recording a regular session of instruction, indicating no, this is not a makeup session. Next, indicate the dates the module was taught and list the names of all of the facilitators who participated in providing instruction. Keep in mind that some modules may be taught over more than one day and with different instructors, so list all dates that the module was covered and list all the names of the facilitators who provided instruction. For this example, I will say that instruction took place on June 8th and 9th, 2015. Be sure that you do not enter a date for instruction that is outside of the program period or the start and end date of the program cycle. I will also enter the facilitator's name by spelling out their first, full, and last name. Please do not use initials and be consistent with how you enter facilitator names across your FMFs. Next, record the number of instructional days, which is the number of days that content for the module was covered or taught. Sometimes this can lead to a tricky series of questions. If you taught this in one day, then lucky you, that's a very straightforward answer. But your answer should only be written as a whole number, so do not include decimals or fractions of days. If the module, however, was taught over more than one day, how should that be recorded? Well, if part 1 of Module 1 was taught on June 8th and the other part was taught on June 9th, then you should enter 2 days. Since I listed that this module was taught on June 8th and June 9th, I will note it as taught over 2 days. Next, record the number of youth present in all days of instruction. If there was only one day of instruction, the total number of youth present would be recorded. However, if instruction took place over 2 days or more than one day, like in the previous example, how would you record the number of youth present? If you report the total number of youth, you may incorrectly include some students who received partial instruction, meaning that they were present on day 1 or day 2, but not both. Additionally, youth who were present on both days may be counted twice. Instead, when a module is instructed over more than one day, to record an accurate response, indicate only the number of youth who were present for instruction on both days of that module. So using this example, if 15 youth were present on day 1, but only 12 of those same youth were also present on day 2, 12 is the number that would be recorded. Another piece of information recorded is the total number of instructional times spent across all days for a module or lesson. As with other indicators previously discussed, when instruction is provided over a single day, the number to report is rather straightforward. You would simply record the total number of instructional time in minutes. So if instruction lasted 1 hour on June 8th, the total number of minutes you would enter would be 60. Again, it's a little trickier when instruction happens over more than one day. To compute the total number of minutes for a module or lesson instructed over several days, add the number of minutes spent on instruction for that particular module from each day. So in our example, let's say that 60 minutes of instruction for Module 1 were completed on June 8th, and 50 additional minutes of instruction were provided on June 9th for Module 1. Then the total number of minutes that should be recorded is 110. The next set of items asks questions about the level of youth engagement and interest in the module, and whether or not the instructor had enough time to complete the lesson. When answering the first item in this set, if more than half of the youth were engaged during the instruction of the module or lesson, indicate that most participated. Some examples of engagement include participation in activities, exercises, and discussion, and some examples of interest include student-initiated discussion or questions. The same with their interest level. However, if less than half were engaged or seemed interested, indicate that only some participated and/or only some were interested. If fewer than 10% of youth present engaged during the instruction of the lesson, or none showed any interest, then indicate few participated and/or fewer interested. For our example, we will indicate that most participated because the majority of the youth present on both days engaged in group discussion, and we will indicate that some were interested because about half of those youth present on both days volunteered to lead discussion and asked questions. Similarly, the instructor or facilitator would record their perceptions about the adequacy of time allotted to complete the instruction of the entire module or lesson. For this time, if you felt you had enough time to complete the instruction, you would indicate yes, you had enough time. But if you felt slightly rushed at the end, then you almost had enough time. If you feel like you did not have enough time to get through the material or didn't complete the lesson, then you would indicate not enough time. For this example, we will indicate not enough time because instruction was planned to last 2 days, although we were still unable to finish facilitating the module on the second day. It is important to note that these measures are subjective and based on the perceptions of the facilitator or instructor, so it is important that the person providing instruction complete these items. Also, the recency of their memory of the instruction will have bearing on the accuracy of their perceptions, so for these items it is really important that they are completed as close to the end of instruction as possible. The next sections of the form detail and describe how activities were taught and document any changes or omissions. While we know that the lesson should be taught as described, we also know that sometimes changes must be made. Let's say, for example, I am in a setting that doesn't have enough space for a talking circle, so while delivering instruction for Module 1, Activity B, we had to complete the activity in rows in order to keep to the program implementation plan and timeline, so I will indicate on the form that this activity was taught with changes. If for any reason you choose not to teach an activity, please indicate which activity you did not teach and why. For my session, I did not teach Activity G because we ran out of time, which I will indicate. The next section of the survey is the newest addition to the FMF. As we discussed earlier, in the event that a student shows or voices any discomfort and/or distress with what is being discussed in the sessions, then it is required that you fill out a critical incident report with the state coordinator. Please indicate that you have done so on this portion of the survey. For the session that I taught, the student did show signs of discomfort during the discussion, and I have also indicated that I filled out a critical incident report with my state coordinator. The last and final section of the form is a list of data quality and reporting assurances. These should be read and checked off to ensure that all reporting requirements are understood and adhered to before they are entered into the online Fidelity Monitoring Reporting System by a designated staff member or the contractor. Once instruction with students has finished for all sessions instructed by the end of the month, and the facilitator has recorded the details of the session on the paper form, the person designated for data entry should go to the survey online to enter the information for each completed FMF. Let's now briefly walk through this process, with having a saved electronic copy of the form completed side by side with the online data entry page.